Hi, this is Miss Andrea, and today we are going to talk about um, high school English slash literature and social studies, for college prep students. Specifically, we're going to hit ninth, 10th, and 11th grades. Um, and you're going to have to do your homework and go ahead and look at the 8th grade video I did for the English social studies combo, um, because there I explain how to integrate those two subjects and how to also grade them separately. Okay, I always plan English and social studies together because I've already overwhelmed you with math. I've gone overboard with math. Hopefully, I haven't gotten too many people on Twitter, but English and social studies is where you kind of get to relax and enjoy the subject, okay? Um, I'm going to leave 12th grade out here because that's going to be a bit of a departure, which we'll do separately. But just like before, the plan is pick your language arts reading materials that coincide with it so that whatever you're reading in language arts is reinforcing what you've learned in history, and you're not, in one time period in history and in another time period in language arts, causing confusion in the mind. You're reinforcing, instead of fighting it. Besides pairing up your literature with the history, you also do need to get some grammar and writing in. So let's hit that real quick. So in 8th grade, we talked about using, a straightforward grammar workbook. In 9th grade, what you're going to do is work on types of essays, narrative, descriptive, expository, and persuasive. That's what you're going to want perfected in that 9th grade year, okay? 10th grade year, you work on term papers, maybe writing a term paper, for history, and it also counts in the language arts department. In the 11th grade, you're going to write a full, detailed, in-depth research paper. That's where your English falls in. That's where your grammar slash writing falls into the language arts slash history combo. So as a homeschooler, you get to be really creative with subject matter, and this is where the enjoyment comes in. So what I'm going to do is make suggestions for you to choose from for these years. And I will add links where applicable down below. Okay, it's going to take me a couple of days to edit this, so you probably get a rant to keep you busy. So government is a course that many states require. Mine required a half credit of government. So that's something that you'll want on your list. You can do a half credit or you can do a full credit. And remember, your credits are based on how much time you spend in it. With about 60 credits, 60 hours being a half credit and 120 or more being a full credit. So how deep you go into it, whether you do a survey or in depth, whether you just do a half a year or a full year, will determine how much credit you want to give for this. A fun thing to pair with a government curriculum course is dystopian literature. Dystopian literature is like 1984, Fahrenheit 451, Lord of the Flies, Animal Farm, The Great Gatsby, F. Bryson Men. Basically where these books are giving a little bit of low-key political commentary. They're really great to combine with government. And I'm giving you a link of 150 books to choose from. So that's one option, is government. Okay. Economics or finance can be another half credit course that kind of falls under social studies. My state also required that. And when I say my state required it, it's optional because we homeschool. But if my kid were going to a public college, the state likes them to have it under their belt. Or if I was having someone accredit the homeschool portfolio, then that's where it's required. So economics is an option, and I've got you some links for economics curriculums. And so literature you would pair with a finance course would be Whatever Happened to Penny Candy. It's a little book that kind of is just a really good follow-up and explains things. Freakonomics books will work. A book called Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City. A book called Money Mischief, Episodes in Monetary History. Basically, any nonfiction books about economy that interest you and the student. For half credit, 3 books is plenty. For a full credit, I do 6. Let's not forget we're homeschooling. Technically, you want an official history curriculum, but have you noticed that there are a lot of history podcasts, documentaries, and movies available that get pretty historically accurate and are at least give you something to talk about, to debate the accuracy of it. This is just a really good way to learn history. So I get a curriculum as a guide, because when you're applying to colleges, the colleges like to see the name of a textbook that they recognize. So I literally just get the public school textbook by Harcourt or Glencoe, and I use it as a guide. We can, read through the chapter real fast, and then we can watch a movie or listen to a podcast that coincides with that chapter. And the textbook has like questions at the end, and we can go through the quizzes and discuss those questions, or even take the quiz. So that's just a really good way to do it. I say that before I hit the next subjects. American history is a requirement in many states, so you don't want to glaze over that. I've noticed that some states take 2 or even 3 years in American history. And personally, I like taking 2 years in American history. It's just a lot of information. And if you take American history in order, start at the beginning of, the founding of the country and work through now, go through all the presidents, go through all the wars, go through little things that influence socially. Like, you can do a lot of work. You can learn a lot really, really in depth. And at the end of all that time, whether you do it in 1 very busy year, 2 slightly more relaxed years, or what, at the end of that time, you should have enough information, or they should have enough information in their heads to take the CLEP exam or an AP exam. If you can get your hands on it, it's easier in some communities than in others. They not only have 1 or 2 full credits of high school American history, but they also have 3 or more college credits. And so, it does pay to take your time and to go deep. And you can do it in a really, really fun way through podcasts and movies. Go see Hamilton, and then come back and discuss these things. Go to talks and just talk about it, amongst yourselves, with other people. Okay, so that's American history. I'm giving you a link on U.S. history through movies. And you probably want to follow that up with a CLEP book. If you see over my shoulders, that's History of the United States 1. So, like I said, there's a CLEP exam for History of the United States 1. There's a CLEP exam for History of the United States 2. So there's no reason that you shouldn't take 2 years with American history. When my family did it, we took our time because we also wanted to stop, put on the brakes, and really spend time in civil war and in civil rights. And so those areas didn't get glazed over, or whatever part of history is important for you. Okay. And I'm giving you a link for a page that gives you movies and novels to pair with it for U.S. history, and their lessons plans and quizzes as well. And then there's world history. Basically, you need to know about countries all around the world. If you followed my plan, you already did geography, so you got a good briefing about that. When it comes to world history, you can choose a time period like ancient history, or you can just skim through the whole thing. My daughter actually did an independent research on ancient Ireland, and I had her write her research paper on that. I have some links here for ancient history text and some movies and novels. But basically, there's a site called teachwithmovies.com, and you just search for whatever time period you're interested in, and it'll give you novel suggestions too. It's a really cool site. When I was homeschooling, I think it was just in development because there were a few things. It's a really nice site now. So basically, I've covered government, economics, U.S. history, world, or ancient, or I don't know, the Middle Ages, any of those time periods that interest you when it comes to world history, or whether you just want to skim through the whole thing. And then there's still so many other acceptable options. If, say, you're going to go to a homeschool-friendly school, or you really love history and you want to add more histories, because remember, you don't have to do one history a year, just like math. You can do 2 histories at a time if you want to. You could do one history first semester, another history next semester. You can do history in the summer. There are just no guidelines. If a child just wants to learn, let them go for it. Okay, so other acceptable options for high school history credit and social studies would be anthropology, psychology, contemporary world issues. That'd be fun. Macroeconomics, microeconomics. There are club exams for microeconomics and microeconomics and psychology. There's politics. And so don't forget, the same rule applies. Get a straightforward textbook. And for this, I do like a textbook in my hand. Use it as a guideline. Use videos, podcasts, and movies whenever possible. Back when we were homeschooling, Glencoe actually had a sister site that had movies that go along with each chapter, and now they've locked those down so that you can't use them if you're not in public school. But that's how we did history. But there's better stuff out there now than what Glencoe had back then. So there, remember that the equivalent of 1 credit is roughly 120 hours of work. So log those hours and see how much time you're spending in these subjects. So you can skim the subjects, hitting each time period briefly, or you can log. Okay, remember that the equivalent of 1 credit is roughly 120 hours. So basically, how much time you spend in the subject dictates whether you give them a half credit or 1 credit, or maybe 1 credit 1 year and 1 credit the next year. Okay. You can go. Yeah. So if you find that you've logged 240 hours in history over a year and a half, that's 2 full credits. Okay. And then, so if you've done that, you know it, spend another month on test prep and take an AP exam or a CLEP exam or 2, and rake up those college credits while you're at it. So just to go over what we did, so you'll know how it works in theory, is what we did was we did the geography in 8th grade with some geography-based literature, like literature around the world in 80 days, things like that. And we did basic grammar. The next year, 9th grade, we did ancient history with our readings were Bible passages and Greek literature and myths and things like that. And we did some medieval, Renaissance readings also, like Shakespeare. And I believe that same year, my daughter took a Shakespeare course and a playwriting course at the co-op. So they had an extra half credit of both English and writing that year. Okay. 11th grade, we did U.S. history with classic American novels and some presidential biographies and a research paper. Kids did 2 years of U.S. history, like I said, and the other one did the one more briefly because my daughter, because she was more interested in, more obscure history, and she still is. Just briefly, in 12th grade, we did the economics and government a half credit each. And that happened to fall that year. We did economics and government. It happened to fall on an election year, which kept things interesting. If you're having an election year, you might as well put in some time to do at least government. It makes things interesting. And for readings, when you're doing government, just do a biography on, the last president, do a biography on whoever's running next. I think it was the last election, Obama was running for re-election. We read biography on Obama. We read a biography on Biden. We read on John McCain, and things like that. Feel free to put your government unit in an election year, even if it's an additional history course, because it just makes things more interesting. And there's a major election every 4 years, so it's going to come up during the course of high school. And 12th grade was our departure year from teaching these two subjects together, but we'll talk more about that later. So, until next time.